ominous, slow-paced music begins, subtly building tension. Have you ever heard a story that sends a chill down your spine? Not because of what's known, but because of what isn't. A story that leaves you with more questions than answers. Today, we're diving into a case like that, a puzzle that has haunted the foggy streets of Savannah, Georgia, for over 40 years. This is the story of Thomas Keene, the man who laughed his way into the night and vanished without a trace. It was the summer of 1980. Picture the scene. Savannah's historic district, air thick with humidity, the scent of magnolias mixing with the salty tang of the nearby harbor. Thomas Keene, a 34-year-old factory worker, was on top of the world. He'd just landed a promotion and was out celebrating with friends at a popular local bar. Spirits were high, drinks were flowing, and Thomas was the life of the party. Friends would later tell police that he was seen laughing and in a great mood. But as the night wore on, something shifted. Witnesses noticed Thomas talking to a woman. No one knew her. She wasn't part of their usual crowd, a striking stranger who seemed to appear out of nowhere. They described her as captivating, someone you couldn't help but notice. Thomas and this mysterious woman danced, they shared a few drinks, and then they stepped out of the bar together. The clock struck 1:17 a.m. The two of them disappeared into the warm, fog-filled streets near the harbor, swallowed by the hazy glow of the streetlights. His friends assumed he'd be back, or at the very least that they'd see him at work on Monday. But they were wrong. That brief moment, that step into the Savannah mist, was the last time anyone ever saw Thomas Keene again. The next morning, the first sign that something was terribly wrong appeared. Thomas's car was still parked right where he'd left it outside the bar. But inside, on the dashboard, sat his wallet and his watch. They weren't thrown there in a hurry. They were placed carefully, almost deliberately, as if staging a scene. His keys were gone, but everything else of value was left behind. It was an immediate red flag. This wasn't a robbery. This felt different. His family reported him missing, and the Savannah police launched a full-scale investigation. They canvassed the area, questioning everyone from bartenders to dock workers. They searched every grimy alley, checked every seedy hotel, and scoured every pier along the riverfront. K9 units were brought in, and the dogs picked up Thomas's scent almost immediately. They followed it with determination, leading officers away from the bustling downtown area and toward the old, desolate warehouse district by the water. The trail was strong, weaving through abandoned buildings and rusty chain-link fences. Hopes were high that they were closing in, and then abruptly it just stopped. In the middle of an empty cobblestone street, the dogs grew confused. The scent vanished. It was as if Thomas Keene had simply stepped off the face of the earth, mid-stride. There were no tire tracks, no signs of a struggle, nothing. Just an empty street and the lingering scent of salt and decay. Weeks turned into months, and the official investigation stalled. But in a city like Savannah, steeped in history and folklore, a vacuum of facts is quickly filled by rumors. The mysterious woman from the bar became the central figure in the city's whispers. Some people claimed she was seen boarding a foreign cargo ship that very same night, a phantom figure slipping away before sunrise. Others spun darker tales, whispering about a secret, illicit trading ring that operated along the docks. A dangerous world Thomas might have stumbled into by accident. Could Thomas have been lured into something sinister? Was the woman a plant? A honey trap designed to ensnare him for reasons unknown? Or was it something else entirely? A crime of passion? A planned escape? Despite the rampant speculation, no shred of proof ever surfaced. The woman was a ghost, and the police had no leads to follow. The case of Thomas Keene went cold, filed away in a cabinet, another name added to the long list of the missing. But this story doesn't end there. 5 years passed. The year is now 1985. Life in Savannah had moved on. Thomas's friends and family were left with a permanent, aching void, a wound that refused to heal. Then something happened that dragged the mystery right back into the light. A local fisherman, casting his nets near the very same pier where Thomas's scent had vanished, felt a strange snag. He hauled his catch in, and tangled among the fish and seaweed was something that didn't belong. It was a waterproof wallet. Inside, preserved almost perfectly against the salt water, was Thomas Keene's driver's license. The photo, a smiling 34-year-old man, stared back as if no time had passed at all. But there was something else tucked inside. A faded photograph of a woman. Her face, however, was half burned away, the edges charred and blackened, leaving only a haunting fragment of her image. Who was she? Was this the woman from the bar? And why was her picture half destroyed? The discovery threw the police department back into action. The case was officially reopened. Detectives scrambled to analyze the new evidence. They tried to identify the woman in the photograph, running the partial image through every database they had, showing it to old witnesses, but it was a dead end. The image didn't match anyone in local or national records. It seemed she had no official existence. Every new lead they pursued ended just like the original K9 trail, in silence and frustration. The wallet, instead of providing answers, only deepened the enigma. Decades passed. The 80s gave way to the 90s, then the new millennium. The old warehouses by the river, once the heart of Savannah's industry, fell further into disrepair. The story of Thomas Keene became a piece of local folklore, a ghost story told to spook tourists. But the final and perhaps most chilling piece of this puzzle was yet to be discovered. Just a few years ago, a construction crew was tasked with restoring one of the oldest warehouses in that district, the very area where the dogs lost Thomas's trail. As they worked to gut the building, they made a strange discovery. Behind a stack of rotting crates in the cellar, they found a section of the wall that seemed newer than the rest. Prying it open, they uncovered a hidden, windowless basement room that wasn't on any of the building's blueprints. The entrance had been sealed shut with heavy, rusted chains, as if to keep something in or out. The air inside was stale and thick with dust that hadn't been disturbed for generations. The room was sparsely furnished, a few vintage liquor bottles, 2 simple wooden chairs facing each other and nothing else. But as the workers shone their flashlights across the floor, they saw something that made them freeze. In the thick layer of dust, there was a single set of footprints. They led from the doorway toward the center of the room, and then halfway across the floor, they just stopped. There were no return prints, no scuff marks, no sign of a struggle. The prints just ended mid-stride in the middle of an empty sealed room. Forensic analysis confirmed the dust had been undisturbed for at least 40 years. The footprints were a man's, roughly the same size as Thomas Keene's. But there was no explanation for how they could simply vanish. How does a person walk into the middle of a room and leave no trace of how they left? Was this where Thomas was taken? Was this where he met his end? Or was this where he stepped from our world into somewhere else? The discovery of the secret room added a truly unsettling, almost supernatural layer to the case. It offered no logical conclusion. To this day, the disappearance of Thomas Keene remains one of Savannah's most enduring and baffling mysteries. His file is still open, but it gathers dust, a cold case with no new leads. The official story ends there, in a sealed room with footprints leading to nowhere. But the legend lives on. Locals who walk the harbor late at night, especially when the fog rolls in thick from the river, share stories. They say that if you're out near the old warehouse district, right around 1:17 in the morning, you need to listen closely. They say you can sometimes hear the faint sound of laughter carried on the breeze, the same carefree laugh Thomas' friends heard just before he vanished. And if you look closely toward the water's edge, some claim you can see a faint, ghostly outline of a man standing by the pier. He's just waiting, they say, still looking for the mysterious woman who led him into the dark all those years ago. What do you think happened to Thomas Keene? Was he the victim of a crime, a tragic but explainable event? Or did he stumble into something far stranger, something that defies our understanding of reality? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the unknown. If you found this story as fascinating and chilling as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more mysteries. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Stay safe out there and always be curious.